The Spinoff Podcast Network.
Love news but find keeping up a bit overwhelming? Well, Newsable is the answer. It's your daily fix of everything worth talking about. I'm your host, Imogen Wells, and in about 15 minutes, I'll bring you what you need to know from Aotearoa and around the world and explain why it matters. Newsable tackles the big stuff without taking itself too seriously. Listen and follow wherever you get your podcasts.
When the Facts Change is brought to you by the Spinoff Podcast Network in partnership with Kiwibank, the bank for Kiwi looking to get ahead in business and in life. A bank that delivers expertise and banking know-how, smart advice for business owners wanting to invest, grow their business or diversify. A bank that adapts with technology through the lens of its people and customers. It is a bank with heart that is driven by its purpose. Kiwi making Kiwi better off.
Tēnā koutou katoa ko Simon Day Takawingoa. I'm the Commercial Editorial Director at The Spinoff. Welcome to this month's bonus episode of When the Facts Change. This week is Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, Māori Language Week. It's an opportunity for all New Zealanders to embrace and celebrate Te Reo Māori me ōna tikanga and what they mean to the fabric of Aotearoa. But banks have not traditionally been a place that meshed easily with Te Ao Māori. It's an industry that doesn't naturally fit with the way iwi, hapu and whānau operate as a collective where resources and wealth are shared. However, at Kiwibank, the organisation has committed to engaging better with Te Ao Māori by increasing its knowledge of Te Reo Māori me ōna tikanga. Leading that commitment are Teahooterangi Pihama, Head of Māori Advisory, and Keita Te Ngoungou, Kiwibank Māori Advisor. They both grew up in Te Ao Māori, speaking te reo, and are passionate advocates for the role of tikanga in Aotearoa. They've been given a mandate to steer the Kiwibank waka on its journey into Te Ao Māori. I spoke to them about why Te Reo Māori is important for all New Zealanders and how lifting the Indigenous cultural competency at organisations like Kiwibank can improve outcomes for Māori staff and customers, support the growth of the Māori economy and raise the financial capabilities of Māori. Kia ora kōrua. I'm really grateful for you both joining me today. I'm really excited about the conversation, but I thought it would be a great place to start with sharing our whakapapa. So I'll start with Keita. No hia koe, Keita.
Me ki he uri no ngā iwi maha o roto Waikato Tainui. Ko Tainui te waka, ko Waikato te awa, ko taupiri me maunga tautari ngā maunga, ko taupiri pōhara me maunga tautari ngā marae, ko Ngāti Koroki Kahukura me Ngāti Mahuta ngā iwi, ko Ngāti Te Ngoungou, Ngāti Pāpākia me Ngāti Whaurua ngā hapu, he here hoki e nei ki Ngāti Pāwa, Ngāti Pikiao me Ngai Tūhoi. Ko pōtatau te whirowhiro te tangata, ko Keita Te Ngoungou tōku ingoa. Reira, tēnā koe.
Oh, beautiful cocktail of indigeneity there. I love it. And te aho, no hia koe.
Hei timatanga ke mihi kauatu ana kia koe e te tuakana Simon, nā ui wāwahi tēnei kōrero ki waenga nui a tātou, hei aha, hei whakamohio ake ki te ao, ki Aotearoa whānui, ngā tini paenga o tō Te Reo Māori me ōna tikanga. Ko ai tēnei, ko Teahooterangi Pihama tōku ingoa, he uri au no te maunga ti tōhea, no matua te tapu, no te awa Waikato, no hauraki no hoki, no reira whai Aotearoa rauhotu ki te tihi o matua te tapu, ti te tōroa ki te mātenga hei rauaro hamo te iwi, ko ōwai hei ruru hau, ti hei Māori ora.
Oh, kia ora. Nau mai, haere mai ki When the Facts Change. Ko Pirangia te moanga, ko Ōparo, ko Manga Uika, ko Waipa na awa, ko Kāwhia te moana, ko Ngāti Hakairo te iwi, ko Waipapa te marae, ko Tainui te waka, ko Simon Day Takawingoa.
Tēnā koe, Simon.
Tēnā koe.
So you were both grew up wrapped up in Te Ao Māori, speaking te reo. Keita, did you realise at the time how special that was?
At the time, I guess it was drilled into us, the importance of having that gift, that taonga tuku iho of Te Reo Māori. Whether or not we proactively announced or, showcased the gratitude for knowing that reo is definitely another thing to explore, but absolutely, it is absolutely something that we have to embrace, and I think there comes a responsibility in that as well.
When did you realise that was a responsibility that you wanted to sort of take on and advocate for and sort of embrace as a mission in your life?
I guess from when I started kuratuarua, so high school, I started in a public standard high school, and so Te Reo Māori was only then an option as a school subject. So having or creating space for Te Reo Māori me ona tikanga had to be something I had to do proactively, and that was the same for a lot of my my hoa from kura, who came up with me in full immersion te ao Māori learning. So I would say that's exactly the point in time when I realised that. But more so, advocating was when I became a mama, when I had my own tamariki, and it was more prominent in my understanding to actually pass Te Reo Māori on to them. So that's how I go about handing down that taonga tuku iho.
Having children is a sort of mind-blowing moment on so many things like that. You realise that, you have these opportunities to create generational change and help a whole different layer of people understand, the significance of Te Reo Māori to Aotearoa.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think back to the time when my mum was growing up. She wasn't actually encouraged to learn Te Reo Māori fluently, but it was making a comeback during her school years. As she'd recall it to me last night, actually, kids were seen and not heard, and were often sent away to play at tangihanga, pokai and the likes. So it was her mission for us, her children, to have a strong sense of identity and to know our reo. So, yeah, absolutely agree with you.
That revitalisation movement's been so important to where we are now. And today's actually the anniversary of the delivery of the Māori language petition to Parliament in 1972, which was considered a real landmark moment for that modern revitalisation of the language. And the language has come such a long way, yet it's still such an important mission to continue to look after it. Why are initiatives like Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori and the work you do at Kiwibank, Teahooterangi, still so important? Why we can't be complacent right now, right?
Yeah, I think it's an intergenerational understanding of how we support the revitalisation of Te Reo Māori me ona tikanga. So I sort of go back to when I was growing up and having been brought up in Te Reo Māori. For me, that was normal. And it wasn't until I went to primary school and intermediate that I found that actually not everyone had been afforded that same opportunity. And so, the importance for my mama, my parents, when we were growing up was to ensure that we had that foundational understanding of who we were as Māori and how Te Ao Māori and Te Reo Māori played a critical point in that. And it was, for me, when I went to wharekura at Hoani Waititi marae, that I truly understood what the importance was for my mums to bestow me and my siblings with this taonga, with this gift, because it was at that point where I moved away from kura auraki into wharekura and really got a grounded understanding of what Te Reo Māori me ona tikanga really meant to our people, and what its true strengths were in a really Indigenous, authentic way. So thinking about how that then comes through to the way in which our corporate organisations within Aotearoa operate, how the banking industry operates. We haven't had a great relationship with Māori or with Te Māori values that essentially are intrinsically there to support the community, to support one another. And so the way in which I feel everyone should start engaging with Māori, start understanding the Māori values and the way that Māori operate is by firstly having a go at Te Reo Māori because they are intrinsically attached. It is a holistic world, Te Ao Māori, and so for us as Māori, the language is the foundations, ko Te Reo Māori te tuapapa o ngā mea katoa of everything.
You talk about the relationship that it's had with your identity and sort of understanding who you are and your place in the world. How is that relevant, or how is Te Reo me ona tikanga Māori relevant to Pākehā New Zealanders, to Chinese New Zealanders as well? Why is this something for all of us?
Yeah, I think that's so the reason Te Reo Māori should be important to all New Zealanders or all Kiwi is that actually the language belongs to this whenua, to New Zealand. And so for us to truly understand how we all operate as people from Aotearoa, whether you're tangata whenua or tangata tiriti, I believe has to be grounded in that common understanding and those common values that are manaki, that are whanaunga, that are hea atu, that support one another to ensure that we are able to deliver on whatever the best outcomes are that we're trying to achieve for all of Aotearoa.
What does that look like when you start to incorporate things like Te Reo and tikanga at Kiwibank, and what's the purpose of having staff engage with Te Ao Māori in that way?
So it starts with small things, right? So prior to the establishment of the Kiwibank Rautaki, we celebrated Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, Matariki. We had education sessions on what Te Tiriti o Waitangi was and is. We then built up to a Kiwibank Waiata, and then since have started supporting a number of our kaimahi, especially our leaders, through learning Te Reo Māori me ona tikanga. And so for us, it's about capturing people at the right time for them, and having people understand that this is a safe space, that they are able to engage with us, engage with Māori, engage with the language at the right time for them, and that there's no judgment. This is a space that a lot of people haven't actually been afforded the opportunity in the past to learn, and they haven't necessarily felt like they were able to go into a completely Māori environment. And so that's where I feel like corporate Aotearoa have a responsibility as partners under the Te Tiriti o Waitangi to support our kaimahi in whatever stage of the journey they're on in a safe and meaningful way. So the translation of that into how that supports Kiwibank. So for us, diversity is a really important part of our organisation. And, Māori are partners. We're not diversity. However, the principles are still the same. If you have a workforce that is engaged, if you have a workforce that feels safe, capable and empowered, then that is going to deliver best outcomes for them, for you, and for everybody.
You've both come into your current roles via customer-facing ones, where you've been, directly working with Kiwibank clients. Keita, how did you find that your taha Māori, your sort of understanding of tikanga and te reo helped inform your relationship with the people you were working with, the customers, and how did they respond to that, especially Māori ones?
Yeah, so at a very basic level, the way that I carried myself from growing up in Te Reo Māori, all of the principles like whanaungatanga, kotahitanga, aroha, manaakitanga especially, those are the things that I carried with me during all of my interactions, regardless of where any of my kiritaki that I was servicing at those times were from. So it was showing respect by correctly pronouncing their names. And, he mana tō te ingoa. So when you correctly pronounce your customer's name, there's this instant element of gratitude and respect, and they're able to recognize that in you, and they appreciate that more. So basically, how I see it is when you're able to relate to somebody on a personal level, they'll then open up to you and you're able to give them exactly what they need. And I think that's something that is quite powerful. Just having that āhuatanga and being able to deliver that across various different interactions.
Banking is a very colonial institution, and it's quite individualized, which clashes with that traditional way that iwi and hapu and whānau operate as a collective. Have you found, Māori customers skeptical or sort of get their backs up when trying to deal with banks because of the way that feels? Absolutely. And the reason why I suppose that is because of the element of mistrust. A lot of these Western constructs, they weren't created with Māori in mind. And so naturally, as they sort of journey through these different organisations, especially with banks as well, they already have these preconceived ideas, whether or not they were personal experiences. They're going to have their backs up regardless. So it's about how you're treating them, coming into those interactions, and just making sure that you are able to seriously listen to them, but also allow them to have space to connect with you and voice whatever their concerns are. And have you seen that change the way customers relate to you and to Kiwibank? Yeah, absolutely. So I don't anymore, but I carried through with me a relationship that I had with one kiritaki who was Māori. How we came together was through an escalation that I took actually on the front line, and it was all over people saying her name wrong, and the need for her to have to ask them to update a nickname on profile. And from there, I just made it my business to address her as her ingoa, which was Reo. And she was able to then recognise that, one, I spoke Te Reo, because she was actually asking a lot of questions in Te Reo Māori, and two, I was actually there to listen to her and help her out, rather than, doing just basic level service your needs and then let you go sort of situation. So it absolutely does make a huge contribution to how they see us and how they see their bank. So yeah, definitely believe it's a game changer when you're treating people with respect. Te Aho, that's a really interesting sort of anecdotal microcosm of a really big systemic issue. How do you think changing the way Kiwibank relates to Te Ao Māori can change some of the ways that Māori think about, finance as a career?
Yeah, so having been in the finance industry for over 10 years, I've come to believe that there's two parts to this, right? One part is, okay, so finance is something that is new and money is something that is new outside of our historic ways that we used to trade as Māori. And then on the other side of it is that, there's a square hole and a round peg scenario, right? Where from the bank's perspective, we haven't necessarily done much to understand the needs and how we can interact with our Māori customers and actually with all Indigenous customers. So from the perspective of our rautaki at Kiwibank, we are using Te Reo Māori and tikanga as a vessel, as a kauwaka to support the understanding of our people, our kaimahi currently, around the needs of Māori. In turn, we hope some of the unintended consequences of that would be that Māori would see banking as a safe space in which they can come and engage with us as kaimahi, Māori or non-Māori, but then also a future opportunity with regards to career progression, where we do see more Māori joining the banking industry at senior leadership levels outside of where we currently have all of our kaimahi being in those customer service roles that you alluded to earlier. So for us, it's about how do we support our current leadership to understand, and then how do we uplift our people, our Māori people and our Indigenous people into positions of decision making.
Tell me a little bit about the rautaki. What is that and how does that shape your work?
So any rautaki should be the core in which you can continuously reflect back to around all of the decisions you make. Te pai tawhiti, our vision within the rautaki is that the strength of Te Ao Māori is anchored within Kiwibank to drive better outcomes for Māori. So historically, there hasn't been a real relationship between the way in which Māori operate in the banking system, and there's a lot of strengths that the banking industry can learn from Te Ao Māori, such as kotahitanga, whanaungatanga, manakitanga, me wera momo. But that is a really long-term view. So te pai tawhiti, our mission within our rautaki is to engage better with Te Ao Māori by increasing our knowledge of Te Reo Māori me ona tikanga. We have separated the rautaki up into 3 key areas, and it also is indication of where we're starting and where we're heading to. So the first part, te kei, is a real focus on our leadership as they lead the way. The second part is te haumi, the hull. It's about empowering our people. And then finally, te tauihu, the bow, is about engaging with our kiritaki and our hapori, our customers and our communities to drive better outcomes for them. All of this whilst delivering on the organisational purpose of Kiwi making Kiwi better off.
When the Facts Change is brought to you in partnership with Kiwibank to help you understand the issues affecting the economy. And that's what their team of experts is here to do too. Here's Kiwibank economist Sabrina Delgado on what's happening with the labour market in Aotearoa.
Our slowing economy gives way to higher unemployment, and we're seeing tightness in the labour market quickly abating. Both a recovery on the supply side, with our surging migration boosting labour supply and loosening some very tight labour market conditions. But now a stronger narrative is coming through. As consumer demand cools, so too is the demand for labour. Firms are no longer hiring with the same gusto. Already, unemployment has started to lift from record lows, and we expect that to continue throughout 2024.
Visit kiwibank.co.nz to stay up to date with detailed economic analysis and forecasts from Sabrina and other Kiwibank experts. They take big issues from both here and overseas and make them relevant to Kiwi businesses.
Ready to rediscover the joys of cycling? With over 300 kilometres of cycle paths across Tāmaki Makaurau, jumping on your bike and going for a ride is such a fun way to discover the city from a different perspective. Cycling is getting more and more popular across Auckland, so now's a great time to join the hype and give cycling a go. Head to at.govt/cycling to find your nearest cycleway today. Skinny are helping you show how smart you are with the 1Q quiz, an all-new, super challenging and super quick daily quiz built by the Spinoff. Every Monday, Skinny are giving you the chance to prove you're smart with the Skinny Extra Credit question. Get it right, and you'll get the chance to score yourself some Skinny Extra mobile credit, so you can text, call, or even video call your group chat and gloat about how big your brain is. T's and C's apply.
Often, across organisations in New Zealand, we're finding Māori doing these roles of seeding the place of Te Reo Māori, of tikanga Māori, into their workplaces as like a side hustle. How important was it for you, Keita, to be able to give in this opportunity as your day job to try and achieve these outcomes, not as something you have to sort of do on the side?
I guess the importance was within the passion that I had for not just the kaupapa, but being able to uplift Te Iwi Māori, being able to uplift, tikanga Māori within an organisation that I've kind of come up in that hasn't had any sort of reo or any tikanga incorporated into it as far as I was aware in the sort of history of Kiwibank. And to be able to be part of that is actually so important, not just for myself, but other people who are going to benefit from this. And I guess that benefit lies within Te Reo Māori. And by bringing Te Reo Māori into an organisation, it's greater than teaching a few hundred people a verbal language. It's sharing connection. So not only to non-Māori who advocate for the continued momentum of Te Reo as a growing language, but for Māori who weren't afforded the opportunity to connect to their reo in a safe environment. It's also sharing insight to customs, practices, life principles that are invaluable to guiding a collective towards prosperity. And I guess if we're thinking about where the value has been visible in our organisation, I like to look at our Te Hoiako participants, which is the Te Reo Māori program developed for our kaiarahi or our rangatira and a number of our kaimahi. And observing them as they learn when they can reply in Te Reo Māori to a basic question, and they show a sense of pride in their response. Also, when they challenge themselves and each other outside of their learning environment, you notice that connection strengthening with one another as they get things wrong, learn from it, and then get it right again. So, yeah, that's the essence and the power of reo. Deeper connections to self, to paiao or environment, to others, and to everything else encompassed within the origins of that reo. And in this case, it's Te Reo Māori me ona tikanga within Te Ao Māori. So, yeah.
How have you seen Kiwibank staff respond to that, both Māori and Pākehā?
A lot of that has actually been such a positive response. It's been something that I know a number of our kaimahi have wanted for the longest time. And I guess in some instances, Te Aho could speak to this. There may have also been some negative responses to it as well. But overall, absolutely positive responses.
And I know you've seen it have really powerful impacts on your Māori colleagues as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So an example that I can speak to, I guess, a colleague of mine came up with me. So we started together on the front line, and they had absolutely no interest in engaging in their Māori heritage. And it wasn't until we had a few little wānanga sessions of our own that we started to draw out all of these sort of reasons that that made her waiaro turn that way, I guess. And from there, it started to build a keen interest to reconnect with their taha Māori. And so 4.5 years in, and now they're learning their reo, they've been back to research their whakapapa, and they are completely identifying as Māori, whereas in the past they didn't. And that is such a huge, huge shift in mindset, in waiaro as well.
It's changing people's lives. Like it's, the way that person relates to the world has been shifted, and that's really, really cool and beautiful.
Absolutely. I also think as well that, it's important to share what you have, but, it's also important for others to find that path on their own as well. The best thing you can do is wānanga with people, kōrero, mate kōrero, ka whai hua. So it's really important to share this beautiful reo.
Yeah, it feels like you're guiding people rather than carrying them places, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's the way to do it, to be a guide. That's the only way I think anybody else is going to find their place in their journey of any sort of value or benefits to themselves.
Te Aho, small changes as well can have really big impacts in the way people relate to things. The story of changing the Kiwibank slogan is really powerful to me. The way it went from Kiwis making Kiwis better off to removing that S that doesn't exist in Te Reo Māori, to Kiwi making Kiwi better off. Can you tell me a little bit of the history of that anecdote?
Yeah, you're exactly right. The small kaupapa that all compound upon one another has a really, really strong or large impact. And, we've spoken about how getting somebody's name wrong has a huge impact on their perception of customer service and their mana within the standpoint of either organisation or staff, right? So for me, when I had the capacity, when I joined the role that I'm fortunate enough to hold now as head of Māori advisory, I started to really unpack a lot of those kōrero, those kaupapa, and I was at a hui a little while ago now, and one of our kaimahi kept referring back to the purpose, kept referring back to Kiwis and Kiwis and Kiwis, and during that whole hui, I felt a lot of scar tissue that I know that a lot of us Māori feel, and a lot of our Indigenous whanaunga as well, when somebody says your name incorrectly. So during that hui, I couldn't really put my finger on what the kaupapa was. However, coming out of that, and then a few days later, felt like a bit of a dream where I taka te kapa, the sort of penny dropped, and I realised something that had been staring me in the face for quite a number of years had been causing a lot of scar tissue at the same time. So I explained it sort of like a tipuna experience, right? When one of your tipuna crawl into your hinengaro and make you aware of something that's fairly obvious, and then they leave you alone. So at the time, I was apprehensive around bringing it up with our leadership team, with our marketing team. And so, at that point, when I did finally raise it with my leadership, it was actually one of those things that was quite unanimously accepted, given the explanation. And what I perceived as being quite a taumaha kaupapa that I would be sort of taking towards as a whittle to our company, to our organisation, actually was really well received. So it was at that point, not too long after that we announced it to our wider workforce, and it's been a year since then, or just over a year. And so now, given it is Te Wiki o Te Reo Māori, what are our obligations as a corporate within Aotearoa, with a spotlight on us at the moment around how we use Te Reo Māori, is to now go external with that correction a lot more. And the way for people that have been resistant in changing that use of language and correction is historically on the news and in conversation, te iwi Māori were referred to as Māoris, hapu were referred to as hapus, iwi referred to as iwis, and then that's since changed. So we are now Māori, we are now whānau, we are now hapu and iwi, and organically that means either singular or multiple. So the other way that I go about explaining that shift is simply whenever you say Kiwis, I hear sheeps. So, it is sheep, not sheeps for the plural.
We might have to talk to the New Zealand rugby league team about this as well. Well,
interestingly enough, on the rugby league team, what you'll find is because there are a number of Māori on that team, you'll hear there's a bit of a split between those who use Kiwis and those who use Te Kapa Kiwi.
Progress, is a slow but important thing, right?
Aye.
How did it feel when you took that to the leadership group for them to endorse it so unanimously, and did that provide you momentum? Was it for the other things you wanted to achieve?
Look, a number of the conversations that I had with myself prior to taking that to our leadership team is this really something that I want to go in to pakanga about? Is this something that I really want to go into war about? Because the purpose of Kiwi making Kiwi better off is one of the largest or more well-known slogans that an organisation such as Kiwibank has. It's what attracts us to our customers and what attracts our kaimahi to us as well is purpose. So, for something so simple, I really believed that because I was in a unique position and had direct access to our senior leadership, who were in the position to make those decisions, that actually it was not necessarily a privilege for me to go and share that with them, but it was something that I must do as somebody who was brought up in Te Ao Māori, and somebody who's had their name butchered from a very young age through to just more recently.
Keita, in the role that you have at Kiwibank, what does success look like? Because it feels like there are these small things with huge potential outcomes, like correcting that purpose. Mm-hmm. And then there are direct changes that you're creating for customers and for staff alike. What are you doing every day what are you striving towards every day? What is success?
Well, I guess a long-term, I'd say short-term, medium-term, and long-term success looks the same. It means we're able to deliver on everything that we have in our rautaki, and with that, everybody else that is involved in that process are equally on board with that as well. So it might take a long time for some of those things to be achieved throughout the organisation, but on a whole, small wins, that's the main thing, is that we're achieving things bit by bit. So it's a little bit of a staggered situation, but at the end of it, our success is measured by the things that we're able to deliver on.
And for you, Te Aho, how has Kiwibank embraced this journey already, and what does the future look like?
So Kiwibank has embraced this journey already by ensuring that Te Reo Māori lens has been across a lot of the mahi that we're doing, both in our current state and looking at what we're wanting to achieve over the long term, because as you know, Māori take long-term views on things, such as investment and people. So we're already doing a lot to ensure that the banking industry and Kiwibank represent the future needs of Māori. With regards to the rautaki, it is ensuring that we are doing that little piece at a time to further ourselves or better ourselves. So the rautaki refers to all of our people paddling in unison, right? Because we know that not one single person can paddle a kaupapa or a waka on their own. And it is a privilege that I've got the support now of Keita, who's come on board to tautoko the direction of our rautaki. But actually, we do require the power of all of our kaimahi to ensure that we do reach our future destination, which for me looks like a safe space both for our kaimahi, Māori and non-Māori, and our kiritaki, both Māori and non-Māori.
And Keita, for all New Zealanders who are listening, what do you want them to feel about Te Reo Māori and their role in ensuring that it's looked after and celebrated?
What I want every single person here in Aotearoa to feel is that regardless of their background or their connection to Te Reo Māori, everyone can learn and use Te Reo Māori. It's also never too late to start. And no matter where you find yourself, whether you're a Māori who lives away from your hau kāinga, there is always somewhere that you can learn Te Reo Māori. It's definitely a beautiful reo to learn, especially when you get to understand tikanga behind it, and you get to actually really dive deep into understanding the likes of whakapapa and our connection to whenua as well. So it belongs to all of us.
I think that's a really powerful place to finish. So I'm really grateful for both your time today. You've certainly inspired me to push on with my own journey, because it can feel really tough at times. Learning a language is not an easy thing. Like, I make so many mistakes in English as it is. So thank you both for speaking to me today, and good luck on your mission. It's such an important one.
Tēnā koe hoa.
Ngā mihi ki a koe hoki, and good luck on your journey.
Kia ora, Keita. Tēnā koe Te Aho. Ka kite.
When the Facts Change was brought to you by the Spinoff Podcast Network, together with Kiwibank. Visit kiwibank.co.nz to find out how Kiwibank are making Kiwi better off.
Are you making the most of your KiwiSaver investment? Generate is an award-winning KiwiSaver provider with a track record of strong long-term performance. Making a smart decision now could add tens of thousands of dollars by the time you reach retirement. Book a no-obligation chat with a Generate KiwiSaver advisor today at generatekiwisaver.co.nz/get-advice. A copy of the product disclosure statement is available at generatekiwisaver.co.nz. The issuer of the scheme is Generate Investment Management Limited, and of course, past performance does not guarantee future returns.
The Spinoff Podcast Network.